Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining today's webinar, The Next Frontier of Customer-Centric Marketing. As a reminder, the audio for today's meeting will be streaming through your computer speakers, so please make sure the volume is turned up, and if you have any questions throughout the event, we encourage you to use the chat box at the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. We'll have a few moments to address questions in a Q&A portion at the end of the presentation. Thank you, and at this time I'd like to introduce today's speakers, starting with Elizabeth from Persado.
Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining us today. We have a great webinar we're excited to share with you. Let's take a quick look at the agenda. First, we are going to take a look at Persado and discuss how we can help you humanize your customer interactions with our technology, specifically through our Bronson integration. Then we'll hear from Lolly from Lulu Press for real-life examples of how she leverages Bronson and Persado to enhance with customer-centric product recommendations. So let's get started. As marketers, we're beyond the point of batching and blasting the same content to all of our customers. We know it is crucial to make the customer experience as personal of a journey as possible. Bronson offers all the tools to create the perfect segmenting framework, but we know that there's another step at the bottom of this funnel. What do we say to our customers to not just get them to Some words are worth more than others. This is a great analogy for Persado. When you play Scrabble without a dictionary or Google, your plays are limited to what's in your head, not what exists in the universe. Enter Persado. Imagine having access to the largest AI-generated marketing language cloud to take out the guesswork of marketing and writing copy for subject lines, email bodies, and display ads. The difference between Persado and this analogy is that your content is not a game. Instead of relying on the language you already know, our marketing language cloud gives you access to the world's largest and ever-growing collection of marketing language. But Persado does not just give you access to this database. It generates the best copy for each and every one of your customers to maximize results. Talk about a triple letter score. So how do we do this? Persado runs on over 1 million curated emotional and motivational words, phrases, and images collected over several years and scored against response data from 50+ billion impressions. The platform codifies message elements to those words, symbols, and images to make them semantically understandable by a machine. This process transforms them into cognitive or smart content that can be read as data from which emotional and rational triggers can be extracted. We've done this hundreds of millions of times and analyzed billions of data points across all of our clients. Neuroscience suggests that over 90% of our decisions take place subconsciously based on our emotions. Humans are emotional beings. Whether we're aware of this or not, you're constantly trying to connect with others. This is something that is easy to grasp in a store when a salesperson attempts to read a customer's signals and behaviors to help them find what they're looking for. Without this human interaction, it's hard to know what will resonate with your audience. Persado has taken the guesswork out of this for you. What you see here is what we call the wheel of emotion. 15 different emotions grouped into 5 categories that are used to determine consumers' response in the context of marketing and advertising. By replicating the complexity of human emotions in our technology, our AI can learn from your audience. The machine essentially reads these behaviors visually, discovering the precise language and emotions that resonate with your customers. In this way, Persado humanizes AI to strengthen your connection. What I'm going to show you now is how important emotions truly are. They vary by geographic location, by industry, and by offer, among many other things. And there's no way to determine what the best message is aside from actually testing across your audience. So we've extracted some of our findings from across the globe. What you see here are the top performing emotions for the UK. As you can see, anxiety and guilt are two of the top performing emotions that are most likely to drive engagement among your customers. Some anxiety phrases are things like don't forget or important update, while phrases that evoke guilt among your audience are phrases like don't miss out, it's too good to miss, and don't ignore this. If we take a look at the US and which emotions are effective here in the States, anxiety is largely impactful. Achievement, on the other hand, in comparison to the UK, is the highest performing emotion, with phrases such as you've earned it and you are being rewarded. Lastly, Europe's top performing emotions are gratification, which are phrases like get a gift on us or we're treating you, and gratitude, using phrases like we appreciate your loyalty and thank you. So how exactly do you get access to the world's largest marketing language cloud? Easy. Persado has a number of self-service products across multiple channels. We're going to focus on two today, Pro Email and Predict, both of which have easy-to-use integrations with Bronto. Let's first take a look at Pro Email, our subject line testing tool. When we create an experiment, we first ask you for context upfront to help the machine tailor the most relevant and effective language for your campaign. What industry are you in? What type of email are you sending? What is the content of that email? Once you provide this information, the machine goes to work. The machine finds relevant campaigns in Persado's knowledge database by analyzing millions of data points. Then, the machine selects cognitive content that is organized and ranked across language variables. After that, the machine leverages our unique industry data to suggest subject lines that will inspire action from day one. Last, but certainly not least, the machine then uses your own accumulated data to learn and get smarter with each campaign. So, how exactly are you able to get your content over to Bronto? Easy. Use our Persado Chrome extension in your existing Bronto workflow. You'll select the Persado campaign and preferred A/B testing setup right within the extension. Click Add, and you'll resume the Bronto setup per usual. Don't have time to set up a subject line test? No problem. Persado Predict provides expected subject line performance based on historical industry data and offers recommendations on how to improve your content. And it's available right within the Persado interface, that little P button. Now I'm going to pass it over to Lolly from Lulu Press to give more details on how Pro Email and Predict help increase program performance.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Hi, everyone. How are you? My name is Lolly, and I'm on the digital marketing team here at Lulu. Before I hop into how I leverage Bronto and Persado to create the ideal customer journey, I'd like to give a little bit of background on Lulu. So, Lulu Press has been around since 2002. We are the pioneers in self-publishing. When you think of self-publishing, you may automatically think of the fiction author, which is totally true, but anyone can self-publish. Anyone who's a creator of content can have the opportunity to share that with the world, and that is our vision. So you could be a nonprofit trying to fundraise with a calendar, a motivational speaker with a new book, a business printing employee manuals, or a classroom publishing their next poetry anthology. So just really quickly, a little bit about how self-publishing is different than traditional publishing. As you can see, there's a few more steps with traditional publishing, but with Lulu, you just upload your manuscript and publish, and it's free to publish on our site. You can sell your books online through Lulu, but also through Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and other channels.
One thing to note is we are a print-on-demand platform, so we print exactly as many copies as you need, and we ship directly to the buyer, so there's no inventory cost. This is great for our authors, but it also supports our status as a B Corporation with regards to sustainability and corporate social responsibility, which is another key part of our mission. So that's a little bit about Lulu. And now for our marketing objectives. So as you can imagine, with a global business with many products and even multiple brands, email is especially important as it's our most effective way to communicate with our customers. I joined Lulu about a year ago, and during the time when we were really reevaluating our strategy. To give you some context, we send a lot of promotional emails to our U.S. and international markets. So it's a lot, and so we decided to just focus on our U.S. market. We were already using Bronto, but we were looking for more ways to increase customer engagement through email. I learned about Persado at the Bronto Summit last year, and I was really intrigued by the customer insights they gained through their software. I wanted to start testing more with Bronto and just thought the integration was going to be perfect. So I started using Persado in the fall with our main goal to increase open rates. Now to dive into some of our U.S. promotional campaigns. So originally we were seeing pretty low open rates across our U.S. campaigns. And not only that, we've been extremely tough for resources. But Persado has made it really easy to create subject lines that fit our brand and took the guesswork out of coming up with ideas. And we saw promising results on our first test. And as you can see, just by switching a few symbols, ordering, and adding a little bit more of the achievement emotion in there, we saw a 9% uplift in opens and 18% uplift in clicks. And this is just the beginning. So that was really exciting to see. And fast forward to last month, we now a team of 2, so a little bit more bandwidth to set up even more Persado tests. We've also got better as a team, just writing emotionally charged subject lines, but having Persado just really helped us step up our game. Now we have the ability to focus more on clicks as they're more closely correlated to conversions. And we've also seen a downstream impact on our revenue while maintaining our original goal of increased open rates across our audience. Though we have slightly more bandwidth, one more person, there's some times that we need to get a send out the door really quickly. And that's when we use Persado Predict. So literally all I have to do is put in the subject line that I came up with, and it gives me predicted performance. And this is both against industry standards and also historical data that I've uploaded from Bronto. On top of that, it shows me different ways that I can improve my subject line. So whether that's substituting in a more effective emotion or just swapping out a new word or phrase that's been effective in the past. Predict really takes the guesswork out of copywriting, and it just offers some really great insights and help. The Bronto Persado integration has made it really easy to look at emotional insights from past data, which is especially helpful if I'm looking at different audiences or different products. So taking a look at this graph, you can see that we use a lot of excitement in this segment. So phrases like, "Woo, we're excited about this sweet coupon." On the other hand, we should be using more anxiety. So phrases like "brace yourself" has a greater impact on open rates. So as you can see, we use anxiety a lot less frequently, so we definitely plan to explore that more. Last, not only has the emotional data been interesting, but also the data on character count for subject lines. So I've always been under the impression that having a longer subject line is kind of poor practice. But it wasn't until I saw this graph in Predict that with our own data that the subject line doesn't really have an impact on our open rate performance. Not only has Persado really helped us test and learn more about our audience, but the data is interesting to dive into. It's not boring. It's easy to understand, and I've really enjoyed learning more. With these insights and Persado's content and also Bronto's segmentation capabilities, we've really been able to effectively communicate with our customers and just overall step up our email marketing program. So thank you, and now I'm going to pass it on over to Greg at Bronto.
Thank you, Lally, and really good insights there. And I think when we continue the conversation on personalization, I think the one thing that we look at is I'm going to cover it from the personalization into the product recommendation side. I'm going to do that for a reason, but subject lines have to play with the message, and the message has to play with the subject lines. And the message itself is no different than finding some sort of emotion or some sort of personalization in the subject lines. The reason I chose product recommendations to lead this conversation today is because it can apply to almost any message that your email program is going to send. The reason personalization and the product recommendations are so critical is because of expectations, consumer expectations. They expect more relevance. They expect more personalization when it comes to things like subject lines, right? If I'm an anxious person by default and I've got a subject line that resonates with me, I am more inclined to open those things. Or if I'm a witty, sarcastic guy by default and I get that sarcastic subject line, that's going to appeal to me because it's more relevant. And product recommendations work in a very similar format. Subject lines can certainly hurt your product recommendations and your messaging down the road. And I'm going to get into exactly how that can be, but they can absolutely help, and they can really empower your email program. Let me set a quick example here. Say you're at a hotel and you go down to the concierge and you start telling the concierge about dinner reservations that you want and recommendations, right? You can say, hey, I'm looking for a dim lit or a softly lit atmosphere today. I want a surf and turf, maybe some crab legs or lobster tails part of the turf. I like to drink Cabernet. My wife likes to drink some sparkling wine, maybe an appetizer there. And the recommendations turn back around to you with an Applebee's. And not to pick on Applebee's, but that's not really what I had in mind. As a consumer, this happens every day, right? You're providing data to someone who's absorbing that data, thinking about that data, and that provides you something that is just not relevant to you or not relevant to what you're looking for. So this is where product recommendations certainly come into your email messaging fold. Last year, Bronson commissioned 2 global omnibus studies. One of them was around consumer, their shopping and buying habits, the other on retailers. Looking at the U.S. results from that, what they expect brands to provide to them based on the data they are giving. So the concierge example, I'm giving data, I'm getting something back. Product recommendations is one of those key things, right? And this is going to apply both in store and online. But discounts and promotions also high. Of course, people love free stuff. And then you get the basic things coordinating online and in store. But when it comes to expecting product recommendations and getting useful product recommendations, those things are not always aligned. And when we ask those consumers how satisfied they were, the fact is there's work to be done, right? And the younger the generation gets here, in this case millennials, they're not that much more always satisfied than baby boomers are, but there's a lot of that gray occasional area. And what occasional means is batch and blast, right? Occasionally the message is going to be relevant to me because sometimes you're going to hit it, but occasionally it's not going to be as well because you're going to miss the mark. And unfortunately, we live in a batch and blast world nowadays, and mostly, not any fault of the retailer, but limitations in your marketing department is generally stretched. You typically have 1 or 2 people running the whole show on the email side. There's maybe 1 or 2 graphic designers. And while it's easy to create 50 different segments to use, it's not realistic to use 50 segments in every email send, especially if you're sending 4, 5, 6 times a week. And this is where product recommendations come in. They can go into any message or virtually any message, and you want to send from an email side. And they can also be standalone messages. So whether we're talking about cart abandonment, browse abandonment, batch and blast messaging, these are designed to generate relevance to the consumers and meet those expectations. And if you have a great subject line that Persado is going to provide for you to get you the best chance of open, and they open that up and that message is not relevant to you, it's going to hurt your long-term open rates here. So you need to use Persado's power along with other capabilities in here as well. So how do you do product recommendations right? What are those pitfalls you need to avoid? So here's a couple examples of how they can work for you. And I did a couple different layers here. So if you look at the example all the way to the left, it's a batch and blast message. Hey, 65% off and free U.S. shipping. Now, there's some personalized picks down there for women's Savers gear. Go Savers. Now, you might say, well, Greg, it's women's Savers gear you're missing, but I had made multiple purchases of women's Savers gear for my wife. So those are actually intuitive based on my purchase behavior. Toys R Us, one example, I actually made a purchase, so I'm getting that order and shipping confirmation, and I've got other recommendations based on things that they know I might have an affinity to. And the beauty here is they have purchase behavior to use it. And then the Crate and Barrel example to the right? That's just a thank you post-purchase bounce back message. Hey, thanks for your order. Let us know if we could do something else for you. By the way, here's some other things that are complementary, but not the same thing that I just bought. So 3 good examples of making already relevant messages in most cases, except for the batch and blast, more relevant to me. So even if it is a batch and blast and you missed a mark, it's a female tank top email coming to me, and I'm just shopping for men's flip-flops, if I've got some recommendations in there that are relevant to me, it doesn't matter that you missed a mark up top. You've got something relevant in there. Now, here's a perfect example of combining personalization with recommendations. Here's an example of a birthday email. Hey, Connor's birthday's coming up. It's hard to find gifts for 3-year-old boys. So in this example, they've got my son's first name, so personalized. He's turning 3, which he already did, but he was turning 3, yes, and they're calling out the fact it's a boy. So this message without the recommendations is personal and specific to me. That would generally be a great message. You combine 8 recommendations of toys geared for 3-year-old boys, that is a stellar email at that point there. So you're taking personalized messages, you're making even more powerful with recommendations that are intuitive to the actual user or situation. So those were a couple examples of ways to use product recommendations to make messaging more relevant. A couple pitfalls just to be wary of. So just for you subject lines, and I'm sure everyone on the line today has gotten these subject lines. Hey, Greg, products recommended just for you, right? So you open up that message and you might get something like this where the products are never recommended specifically for you. They're just chalked in there, right? The next time I get that subject line, I'm not opening the message because I know you missed the mark the last time. So here's 2 examples, right? Overstock, I bought an iPhone accessory type thing on here, and I'm getting recommendations for stylus pens. Those things are not linked. And if you look at the recommendations just for me at the bottom, I've got 2 sets of female jewelry. Again, not relevant to what I did. And Karma to the right there where I'm not a customer of theirs, I've got recommended just for me. Every single thing says recommended for you or picked just for you, and it's women's shoes, women's pants. I've got 1 men's sweatshirt. Those things are just not relevant. So completely missed the mark, and next time I get that subject line, I'm not opening. Irrelevant results. Right, these recommendations should be intuitive to the actual user. 2 examples here, JCPenney's, and I've got a couple phone statuesque type things in the middle. Then H.H. Gregg, it's going to fit in because they're out of business, but a $20 pair of headphones, which I abandoned. I've got a recommendation to buy a $1,000 television, so not even in the ballpark. So when you have the recommendations, it's okay not to be 100% perfect, but they've got to be better aligned with what the user is actually doing, purchase behavior, browse behavior, email click behavior, whatever it might be in that case. Now, if you can't make them intuitive to the user, you can put generic recommendations, static recommendations, email messaging, and they can certainly be effective for you, but just make sure you do it right. And this is mostly about verbiage. And the next slide, I'm going to show you some ways to make them more efficient for you. So recommended for me, I've got a pea coat, which is something I would never wear just based on my style. Some shoes, I've got some earphones because sure, you need earphones with your new clothing, and a dress shirt. So these are just some male products in there thrown to me, but they're not really effective on that side. And then the example to the right, I've got men's products, I've got women's products, I've got winter hats and summer hats on there. So if they're recommended just for me, they're completely missing the mark again. And it provides the concierge example. I have a lesser impression of the brand that hired the concierge and the concierge himself because he wasn't listening to my cues and what I wanted. So if you want to do them right and you have generic recommendations, here's a couple ways. It's all about verbiage, just like subject lines. It's all about verbiage here. So, hey, don't tell them it's recommended for me. Use a watch example. Hey, time for a new upgrade. I don't know what kind of watch I have or wear or whether I wear a watch, but they know I bought one at some point, and these are just some different styles. It's all about setting the right expectations and delivering upon those for you. So, recommendations can certainly empower your email program, take your messages, even if you're living a batch and blast world, to the next level and make everything more relevant. It certainly combines the power of the subject line as well. So make these things work together and make it more efficient for you, but make sure you do them right. Think of everything through the customer experience, and you're going to be perfectly fine. So at this point, I know I talked very fast here, but at this point I'm going to turn it over back to either Zoom Elizabeth maybe. We'll take some questions.
Yeah, thanks, Greg. It looks like we do have a couple of questions here, so I'll just go ahead and read them off and then give a quick answer. So the first one we have is, let's see, as marketers shift focus to create more hyper-personalized campaigns, how will AI shape the future of digital advertising especially personalization, in time to come? It's a great question. While it may sound contradictory, artificial intelligence is actually allowing brands to create more human-sounding, relevant communications. It's not possible for brands to send thousands, if not millions, of disparate messages that include personalized language and products. And with advancements in AI, we get closer to the holy grail of marketing, which is scaling to one-to-one personalization. Good question. Do you have anything to add to that, or anything else you would throw in there, Greg? Or?
No, I'm gonna take the cop out here. I think you did a great job answering the question. I'm just gonna be repeating everything you said. So roll with it, Elizabeth.
Awesome. Thank you, Greg. We have one more in here. Let's see. You've shared some interesting examples of how brands across industries have leveraged Persado's AI and Bronto in their marketing. How sustainable have their results been? Yes. We have actually seen great sustainability across our clients, especially from our longest term ones. For example, one of Persado and Bronto's most tenured joint clients that I know has been with Persado for 3 years shows not only consistent uplift on Persado content, but their overall open and click rates continue to increase as well. I'd say this is mainly due to two reasons. The first of which is the machine learns faster and more effectively than any human could. The more you test, the more you know, and the more results you see. And then the second is the quality of our clients' copywriting continues to go up because they've really started incorporating Persado learnings, and especially the emotional component, into their subject line. So we've definitely seen sustained uplift for long periods of time. Awesome. Now it looks like we have one more. I am a Bronto user. How do I find Persado Predict in my interface? Yes, great question. You can just find the little P button wherever you're setting up subject lines right within Bronto. All you have to do is click that button and it will show you how to create your Predict account. And another question, let's see. What's the Persado approach to writing pre-headers? Is there a way to test them alongside the subject line, or is it suggested those remain the same regardless of testing? That is a great question. So Predict is mainly focused on the subject lines, as are both the Pro email and Predict tools are focused on subject lines. I don't have any data offhand right here for pre-header text, but with the data upload feature in Predict, you are able to really try and upload any data you would like to see in there, and you're able to see those emotional insights on that data. What we typically recommend is that you talk to your CSM about the best way to do that, and you can see some of the emotional graphs, the character count, all of that in regards to pre-header text. Okay. We have one from, let's see. We do a lot of offer-based emails. I've always maintained that it is best to put the offer towards the beginning of the subject line. Otherwise, I fear that it won't be visible, especially on mobile. Thoughts on that? Yeah, that is a great question. And Lolly touched on it a little bit, the subject line length and how we have seen that it does not have an impact on performance. But it sounds like there's also two parts to that question. One, the importance of the offer in the subject line, and then two, the length of the subject line. From all of the testing that we've done across the millions of data points, we have found that while product description is important in a message, it's not the most important. Emotion is the most important, and it accounts for over 60% of variance in response rate. So that is, it's less about where the product description falls in the subject line and more about making sure that you're including that emotional content, that emotional language in your email. And then the second point about the subject line length is we do not see a correlation between subject line length and performance. The beauty of Predict is you're able to upload your own data in there so you can see for yourself the impact it has on your audience, but more often than not, we've seen that there is no correlation there. Okay. Has Persado seen evolving emotions for brands, such as anxiety being best at first, but evolving to other emotions? Absolutely. We see a huge seasonality component with emotions. Your top performing emotion in January is not going to be your top performing emotion in March. It's probably going to be different than your top performing emotion in July. And that is why we really stress the importance of testing. The only way to really know what resonates with your audience at the time is by constantly testing, constantly seeing what they're responding to. And again, the machine is taking in all of your results and able to generate content based on what it's seeing at that time. So yes, there's a large seasonality component to emotions, and the only way to really be as up-to-date and as effective as possible is to constantly test. Awesome. I think that is going to be all of the questions that we have. Thank you so much for your time today. I believe we'll be sending out a link to the recording at some point in the next couple of days, so be on the lookout in your inbox for that. And yeah, it was wonderful walking through this today.